There are a lot of watches on the market that try standing out from the crowd with a unique design, but oftentimes they fail to appeal because of the majority of them just copy a proven design. For example, if you think of a dive watch, you would most likely think of the Rolex Submariner, but somehow 90% of the dive watches look kinda like a Submariner. So it's really hard for a non-watch guy to even see the difference between a Rolex Submariner or a Tudor Black Bay. And recently, everyone is going after the integrated bracelet design that got popular with the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak back in 1970s. If you were to look on the market for a watch with an integrated bracelet, you will definitively find one in the catalog from a lot of watchmakers that kinda tries to copy something out of the Genta design book. With the market being this saturated, why should anyone actually pay attention to this tiny watch company, H-Moser Cie from Schaffhausen? As previously mentioned, the godfather of the integrated bracelet designs, Genta, is heralded as the savior of the Swiss watch industry because back in 1970s, when quartz watches were starting to get the upper hand on the mechanical watches, he created the design of the Royal Oak and shifted the entire watch industry. Watches were not just merely a tool, they became like rings and bracelets, something you would consider a luxury good. Today, watches with a design that originated from Mr. Genta are extremely popular, like the Patek Philippe Nautilus or the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. And the majority of other watches with an integrated bracelet kind of resembles the Nautilus or the Royal Oak in one way or another. When Moser launched its new Streamliner collection in early 2020, people were surprised because they have never created bracelets for their watches. The majority of their watches came in precious metals equipped with high-quality leather straps. Creating a good bracelet is easier said than done. You don't want to have a bracelet that pinches your skin or pulls your hair. And for an independent watch brand that has no prior experience with bracelet, people were skeptical about the capabilities of Moser. And did you know that working with stainless steel is a lot more challenging than working with precious metals? Because of the hardness of the steel, it is really difficult to create these smooth and precise surfaces on the bracelet. So difficult in fact that back then in 1972, when Audemars Piguet launched the first Royal Oak at the Basel Fair, they actually used white gold instead of steel for their bracelet on the prototype because it was too difficult and time-consuming for the artisan who finished it on time for the announcement. This just shows how remarkable it is that Moser, a company that has no real background with bracelets and little experience working with stainless steel, managed to create this ultra-complex integrated bracelet design that looks like nothing ever seen in the watch world. The first time I saw this watch in person, it gave me a kind of flair from the early 20th century, something inspired from the locomotive industry. It's really charming and it stands out, not only because of its unique bracelet design, but also with the cushion-shaped case that gives this watch its unique organic look. This watch has almost no straight lines on its case or bracelet. It is brushed vertically and features polished parts between each link. So when you rotate your wrist, it will create this astonishing light play. I have seen this kind of polishing effects on Royal Oaks and it always has made the Audemars Piguet bracelet stand out. So I'm really impressed with the execution from Moser. The connection between the links is wielded in a fat M shape, creating a look that resembles the scale of a reptile. The sides of the case features a sandwich design, whereas the top and the bottom section is mirror polished, while the middle is brushed. The top side of the polish is connected to the side polish of the bracelet, enhancing the integrated bracelet look. Because this watch has no lugs and hard lines, it invokes a feeling of uniformity. Everything looks natural, as if this watch was formed from Mother Nature. And speaking of Mother Nature, this style features her favorite color, green. Just looking at the gorgeous green fume dial that Moser calls matrix green makes it stand out from the entire oversaturated green watch phenomenon that is currently rampaging on the watch market, because it's not that in-your-face green, it's more like a natural green, a color you will see often in the woods. It's subtle, especially with the sunburst transition from the darker, almost black outer parts to the bright center that features this breathtakingly forest-colored green. And even the top side of the case is brushed in this sunburst finish, creating this continuous sunburst that expands this effect. There's only the logo on the dial, a signature to Moser watches. It's clean and doesn't disturb the beauty of the dial. The hands are three-dimensional and black polished. They also feature a special kind of lume called Global Light. It's created out of ceramic and superluminova in order to fill the tips without the need of any kind of a frame on the minute or hour hand. The polished batten indices are just ending right before the transition between the black outer parts of the dial and reflect the light like a mirror under certain circumstances. What truly makes this watch special is that if you combine all the aforementioned components together into one watch, you get a legendary wrist roll effect that is unmatched. When you rotate this watch, And just when the light stops with the bracelet, the somber style starts to pick up the light, followed by the baton indices and second graduations, ending with the final sumbers of the top side case. This is truly spectacular and one of a kind. I have never seen this kind of stunning execution on a watch, and it really makes the Streamliner one of my favorite watches. The movement of this watch is the Moser manufacturer caliber HMC 200. It's a beautifully finished movement featuring 72 hours of power reserve and a 3 Hz breathe rate, so it ticks 6 times every second. The automatic winding rotor is made out of solid 18 karat rose gold. It is beautifully engraved by the watchmakers from Moser. The steel case is round about 40 millimeters from top and bottom and even side to side. Because it has no lugs, it should fit the majority of the wrist. With its thickness of 12 millimeters, it's right on the sweet spot. Not too thick nor too thin. It has a screw-down crown and a water resistance rating of 120 meters. So it's also a true sports watch. The Streamliner looks like it was hand-tailored for my 16.5 centimeters wrist. It seems to adapt perfectly to the shape of my wrist. There's no uncomfortable hair pinching or fatigue after wearing this watch for a day. Because of its short lug-to-lug span, it wears perfectly for a 40mm watch. Not too big nor too small. I think that this watch will suit the majority of the wrist size out there. So why is it called Green Dragon? I guess it's because of the reptile-like bracelet combined with this ever-changing natural green, giving this watch its distinctive light play. It kind of resembles a small emerald dragon with its design. So that's my guess. What do you think? After examining this watch, you would definitely wonder how much it costs. The price tag hits pretty hard. It's 20,900 euros MSRP. That's a lot of money for a watch, especially for a steel one. At this price range, the competition is steep because for around 1,000 more, you could get yourself this, the almighty Royal Oak from Automobile. The Royal Oak has the brand, history, and recognition. It's impossible to match the legendary status that the Royal Oak has. What often sells a watch is not the watch itself, it's the brand and the history of the watch. Just because the Royal Oak is perfect in almost every sense, that doesn't make the Streamliner an inferior watch. The watch itself is phenomenal, and it doesn't need to hide behind the Royal Oak. Of course, the Streamliner didn't save the industry nor change the perception of watches, but it reimagined the concept and design of watches with an integrated bracelet. It is hard to fight an icon like the Royal Oak. A lot of companies have tried, and the majority of their approaches failed. H-Moser Cie's attempt is definitely the best on the market. I personally think that the Streamliner is a phenomenal watch, and maybe you could see its merits over other watches with an integrated bracelet. What I love about H-Moser Cie is their courage to try out new things other watch brands have never even imagined before. Their crazy designs that don't play by the rules, and their confidence sometimes not even needing to write their own name on the dial. The Streamliner was not the first watch that broke traditions and pushed the boundaries. I mean, have you seen the Swiss Old watch? It's literally a mechanical Apple Watch. Or their new Endeavour Center Seconds. It's a watch with an eraser serving as an hour hand. They really got the balls to create these things. We need a watch brand like them. A brand that doesn't take themselves too seriously, doing things out of the ordinary, defying expectations. H-Moser Cies are pioneers of our industry, creating watches that are unique and one of a kind. Sometimes they fail, but this time they definitively succeeded.